The first thing I noticed was the silence. That awful, deafening silence when all the notifications on my phone suddenly stopped. No more pings from my banking app. No more alerts from my investment portfolio. Nothing. Just silence. And in that moment, I knew something was terribly wrong. But let me back up. My name is Alex Weber, and 6 months ago, I had $427,000 in my investment accounts. The culmination of 15 years of careful saving, strategic investments, and countless sacrifices. Today, I have a negative balance of $842.17. This is the story of how one mistake, one moment of distraction, cost me everything. It's the investment opportunity of a lifetime, my colleague Marcus had said, his eyes gleaming with excitement during our lunch break. My brother-in-law works for this tech startup that's about to revolutionize cryptocurrency security. They're doing a private funding round before going public. I should have seen the red flags. I should have known better. I had always been the cautious one, the person who triple-checked everything, who researched investments for weeks before committing even a small amount. My friends used to tease me about my financial paranoia. "You're going to die rich but miserable," they'd joke. But something had changed in me. Maybe it was watching others make fortunes in tech investments while I took the slow, safe route. Maybe it was turning 40 and realizing my careful planning would still leave me working until 65. Or maybe it was just simple human greed. "The minimum buy-in is $400,000, Marcus continued. But he can get us in as special investors because of the family connection. Returns of 300% within 6 months. Guaranteed. Guaranteed." That word should have been another red flag. For 3 nights, I barely slept. I reviewed my finances, calculated scenarios, and debated with myself. My life savings represented 15 years of dedication, money earmarked for my future home, my retirement, my security. On the 4th day, I called Marcus. "I'm in," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Send me the details." Within hours, I received an email with investment documentation that looked impressively professional. The company was called Quantum Shield Blockchain Securities. Their website featured sleek graphics, impressive team biographies, and technical jargon that sounded revolutionary, but was just vague enough that I couldn't quite grasp what their specific innovation was. Still, everything seemed legitimate. They had a business address in a prestigious tech district. They had testimonials from people with impressive credentials. They even had what appeared to be preliminary patent filings. I transferred $400,000 to the account specified in the investment documents, keeping just enough money to cover my expenses for the next few months. The transaction went through without issues. I received confirmation documents, access to an investor portal that showed my investment already growing, and weekly updates on company developments. For the first month, I felt like a genius. The investment appeared to be growing steadily. The investor portal showed a 17% increase already. I started making plans for what I would do with my returns. The first hint of trouble came 6 weeks in. I tried to log into the investor portal and received an error message. "System upgrading. Please check back in 24 hours. Not particularly concerned, I waited. But 24 hours became 48, then 72. I called Marcus. "I'm sure it's nothing," he said, though I detected a note of uncertainty in his voice. "They're probably just dealing with technical issues. My brother-in-law mentioned they were implementing some major security features." Another week passed. The portal remained inaccessible. My emails to the company went unanswered. That's when the first cold tendrils of dread began to creep up my spine. I decided to visit the company's physical address. The building existed, but Quantum Shield Blockchain Securities did not. The office suite listed on their documentation belonged to a completely different company that had been there for years. My hands were shaking when I called Marcus again. "Your brother-in-law?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need to speak with him. Now." There was a long pause on the other end. "Alex?" Marcus finally said, his voice breaking. "There is no brother-in-law. I was approached by someone claiming to be a tech recruiter. They offered me a 5% commission for every investor I brought in. I thought it was legitimate. I invested $50,000 myself." The floor seemed to drop from beneath me. The room spun. I had been scammed. We had been scammed. The following weeks were a blur of police reports, FBI interviews, sleepless nights, and gut-wrenching anxiety. The investigation revealed that Quantum Shield was an elaborate fraud operation that had targeted numerous victims, collectively stealing over $15 million before disappearing. The scammers had created a sophisticated facade: fake identities, fabricated credentials, a professional-looking website, and even a temporary virtual office service that forwarded mail and calls to give the appearance of legitimacy. They had recruited unwitting agents like Marcus to bring in investors, lending credibility through personal connections. The worst part? Most of the money had been converted to cryptocurrency and moved through a series of digital wallets across multiple countries, making it nearly impossible to trace. The FBI agent assigned to our case didn't sugarcoat it. Recovery of funds in these cases is extremely rare. The psychological impact was almost worse than the financial devastation. I couldn't sleep. I lost weight. I was consumed by alternating waves of self-recrimination and desperate hope that somehow the authorities would recover my money. I had to move out of my apartment into a tiny studio I could barely afford. I picked up extra freelance work on weekends just to make ends meet. At 40, I was essentially starting from financial zero. Friends offered sympathy and small loans. Family members expressed shock that I, of all people, had fallen for such a scheme. Their well-intentioned question was always the same: how could you not have seen this coming? The truth was both simple and painful. I had wanted to believe. The promise of accelerated wealth had short-circuited my usual caution. I had violated my own cardinal rule of investing. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. 3 months after losing everything, I was sitting in a coffee shop working on a freelance project when my phone rang with an unknown number. "Is this Alex Weber?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "My name is Detective Rivera with the Financial Crimes Division. We've had a development in your case." My heart rate doubled instantly. "We've apprehended one of the individuals connected to the Quantum Shield operation," she continued. "During the arrest, we seized several digital devices with encrypted information. Our team has been working to access the data." I gripped the phone tighter. "And we've recovered some of the cryptocurrency wallets. Most were already emptied, but we found one offline storage device with funds that hadn't yet been moved. We're in the process of converting these assets back to USD and will begin restitution procedures for the victims." How much?" I barely dared to ask. "We won't know the exact amounts until the process is complete, but preliminary estimates suggest victims might recover between 15 to 20% of their investments." I did quick mental math. Even 15% would mean about $60,000. Far from my full savings, but enough to give me some breathing room, some foundation to rebuild. "There's something else," the detective added. "The individual we arrested has agreed to cooperate in exchange for consideration during sentencing. They're providing information that may help us locate other members of the operation and possibly recover additional funds." For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. While waiting for the restitution process, I started a blog documenting my experience. What began as personal therapy became unexpectedly popular. Other scam victims found it, shared their stories, and soon I was hosting a weekly virtual support group for people who had lost significant savings to investment fraud. The irony wasn't lost on me. My biggest financial mistake had led to a new purpose. I began partnering with consumer protection agencies to create educational content about recognizing investment scams. Financial news websites started quoting me as a fraud awareness advocate. When the restitution finally came through, I received $72,645.19, about 18% of my original investment. It wasn't enough to restore my previous financial position, but it was something. A new beginning. Today, 1 year after that fateful investment decision, my life looks completely different than I had planned. I still live simply and work hard. I'm slowly rebuilding my savings, this time with an even more careful approach to investing. My advocacy work has expanded into a full consulting business where I help companies improve their fraud detection systems and educate their customers about scam prevention. The terrible irony is that I now make more money teaching others about financial security than I did in my previous career. The most profound change, however, has been internal. Losing everything forced me to confront questions about identity, success, and what really matters. I discovered that while the financial loss was devastating, it didn't destroy me. I found resilience I never knew I possessed. Would I go back and change my decision if I could? Absolutely. The cost was enormous, both financially and emotionally. Yet I can't deny that navigating this crisis has transformed me. I no longer define security purely in terms of account balances. I've learned that recovery from even catastrophic mistakes is possible. And I've discovered that sometimes our worst failures can lead us to unexpected purpose. My bank account still shows just a fraction of what it once did. The full recovery of my financial position will take many more years. But now, when people ask me about the most costly mistake that cost me my life savings, I can tell them about what I lost, and also what I found. The silence of those notifications stopping still haunts me sometimes, but it's been replaced by something else. The sound of resilience, reinvention, and the steady rebuilding of a life that, while different from what I planned, still holds promise. Because while a mistake cost me my life savings, I refused to let it cost me my life. I would like to hear from you. Can anyone identify with my story? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe out there and see you next time. Thanks for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in the next video.